Hei sann alle sammen, og velkommen til månedens møte med Morten. I dag skal vi snakke om valg i Palestina. Og med oss, for å snakke om det, så har vi Majdi Shella, som en fagforeningsaktivist fra Palestina, og som siden 1996 har jobbet med å hjelpe med valgobservasjon, og har vært en viktig informant for oss i Palestina-komiteen og i faglig utvalg for å gi informasjon om opptakten til valgene i Palestina som kommer i tiden fremover nå. Så skal jeg skifte til engelsk, fordi nå skal jeg hente Majdi inn i streamen. So, Majdi, welcome so much to the monthly meeting with Morten. It's very nice to have you here.
Thank you, it's my pleasure, and it's a pleasure for me to give me this opportunity to hear the voice of the people. As I don't consider myself as a politician or a leader, maybe as activist, but people to people, and the most important is give a chance for, the labor voice, as we are part of the labor movement, to hear the labor voice, in your country. So it's my great pleasure for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much for taking the time. And you are currently in Nablus, yes?
Yes, for sure.
Yes.
True.
Great.
Yes.
So before we start talking about the election, I just want to mention one thing that's been going on this weekend, because in relation to the holy month of Ramadan, Palestinians usually gather around the Damascus gate in Jerusalem in the evening to meet friends and family and to break the fast, and this weekend they were not allowed to do this, and the Israeli police put up lots of barricades to stop them from meeting. Can you just mention very quickly about what this is and how this has been? How do the Palestinian people react to this brutal attack by the Israeli police and also the right-wing Israelis who showed up and demonstrated, screaming "Death to the Arabs" and pretty much just ruined and threatened and lots of violence? And can you just say something about how do the Palestinians relate to this, and what do you think is the ramifications of this?
What's happened and what's still happening, it's not new in Jerusalem. Of course, it's part of the Palestinian struggle, resistance against the Israeli occupation in the occupied territories, include that the East Jerusalem. And it was a practical answer about, refusing, what we called it, building everyday new facts. It's not matter of just harassment, if I want to describe it in this word, and prevent the Palestinian people and youth, to meet and gather at Bab al-Amud, mainly one of the main gates of Jerusalem. It was the result of. It was not the act. It was the result of, the extreme right-wing attacks against Palestinian, not just by words, not by slogans calling for Arabs' death. It's start to be physically, and trying, as I mentioned, every day building new facts in east part of Jerusalem, and as the people of Jerusalem, part of the at the end part of the Palestinian nation and part of the Palestinian struggle, it was a normal reaction from them, to face and refuse any new facts that they are trying to build by extreme right wing, who is mainly supported by the Israeli government and the police and the security. So it was, for me, nothing new. It's normal. It's happened before. It's happened today, and it will continue happening as long Jerusalem is still occupied. This is the fact what we have. Yesterday, we were happy watching that the youth are challenging the order and they break all the barriers, in the front of the main entrance of Jerusalem, and even after they have been attacked. But at the end, this is the practical, answer from the Palestinian in general and the Palestinian youth, that they are the Israeli Zionists always gambling, that this new generation will forget. This is our practical answer. We are not forget. We are still part of the Palestinian nation dream and struggle. So this is the main point of what's happening in Jerusalem. And by the way, we are one body. When something happened in any part of Palestine, even include in the 1948, you will find a response and reaction anywhere and everywhere. So the reaction was not just in Jerusalem; it was everywhere in historical Palestine. So,
and also here in Norway, in the solidarity movement here in Norway, we also feel that we are standing shoulder to shoulder with you in solidarity as much as we can, and trying to spread the awareness, which is what this meeting is about, to spread knowledge and spread awareness about what's going on in Palestine now. Because a lot of the time we talk about what happened before and the history,
yes.
But now we want to also make sure that we are up to date about what's going on in Palestine now and the current events. And so what we're going to talk about today is the Palestinian elections, and you have scheduled 3 elections.
Yes, it's true. It's supposed to be, on the 22nd of May, the PLC, the Palestinian Legislative Council election, and 29th of July, the presidential, and on August should be, the PNC election, the Palestinian National Council election. This is what have been is scheduled. And in fact, let me say I'm part of the civil society. We had a big discussion about what it was supposed to be to be the first, the PNC or the PLC, the presidential or whatever. What is the most important? I think if I give you shortly historical background, maybe you can understand more better what we believe is supposed to be, should be first and more important than each the other points. So the Palestinian, as I always say, the Palestinian people, we are not just a people. We are a nation. We are a nation, and we are a nation, and we are a civilized nation. We are part of the not just part of the Arab world. We are part of the world also. So one of the first experience of, if I want to say, kind of democracy in Palestine start to be after the Ottoman Empire collapsed. So in 1919, it was the first establishment of, if I want, it's a council, national council also, but they called it the Palestinian National Congress. Have been founded by, of course, different hundreds of representatives of Palestinian society, from the political parties, factions, movements, big families, whatever, is to rule, the daily life of Palestine and Palestinians. So it's matter of the main point I want to say, the legal representative of Palestine. So in 1919 started this first experience until the 1928. This Congress was working, of course, with the British mandate, who are with the Balfour, declaration. Of course, they are not interested to have real democracy in Palestine and to have real strong council to represent them. So, and after several of strikes and revolutions, until what I want to say, second experience we had after the Nakba of 1948, exactly on September, establishing the PNC, the Palestinian National Council, and the main goal of establishment of this council is to establish the Palestine government on Palestine according 1947, resolution. And this council and this government was being recognized by the Arab League and was representative by the Arab League until if I want to say, the real third Palestinian Council, who still exists until now, I mean, as a body, as a constitution, start in 1964 in Jerusalem. And with the meeting of this PNC, Palestinian National Council, they announced the establishment of PLO, Palestine Liberation Organization, the main and the only and the legal representative of Palestine and Palestinians anywhere and everywhere they were live, in occupied territories in 1948, and who's live, outside and abroad. So this council is still, as a body, as a constitution, still until now exists as a PLO. Around 23 meetings they have from the establishment. This is lead. Meanwhile, the constitution was mentioned every 3 years. This should be a new election to elect a new leadership, but with the political situation and with the attachment with the Arab regimes, many obstacles and difficulties faced to hold this kind of meeting. But in fact, it was in my mind to pay your attention something I don't know if you ever known about. When we talk about the PNC, Palestinian National Council, and PLO, 1964, as a reaction of the establishment of this council and PLO, 1965, Fatah movement have been established. Do you know that? I mean, PLO, Fatah and Arafat, they were out of PLO, and they were in the opposition of PLO. Because they believe that PLO is related with the Arab regimes and believe that we are in need of an independent national struggle resistance movement. And according that, 1 year, I said later, 1965, Fatah movement is have been established. Palestine National Liberation Movement, Fatah. This is the meaning. Palestine Liberation Movement, Fatah. This is the meaning. So Fatah was out of PLO until '69, when Fatah started to have great support. Now I'm talking about. It's important to talk about facts. Facts. I'm talking about facts. The rule of different factions and movement in Palestine. One of the great success of Fatah when after they have been established, especially after the '67, occupation, they managed not just as an armed and resistant movement, but they managed, to turn the refugees case from a humanitarian case to be a political case. So for that, no wonder was, Fatah have great support from thousands of Palestinian refugees. By the way, from different background, leftist, communist, nationalist, all of them, they have been joined and gathering Fatah movement. And in the National Council PLC meeting, 69 Arafat have been elected as the leader of PLO. Why I mentioned that, because we are witnessing the scene of when we talk about Hamas. Hamas established, also as a resistance movement, and it is out of PLO, and of course our main demand as a national unity, Hamas should be part of PLO too, but remind even my people, especially this young generation who don't know well about this history. As Fatah was out of PLO and later led the PLO, Hamas also are in the same position now. So we are seeking and looking for, you see, Hamas and the other parties, even if we are from ideological side, political side, even we are disagreeing, but we believe they are part of the Palestinian people and nation, and they should be part of the Palestinian national unity and decision making. This is the importance of when I'm talking about national unity, to be partners in decision making, not just partners, for propaganda and for decoration and all of this. So this, that's what we had, until we have, the Oslo Agreement, because the PNC, as I said, the Palestinian National Council is considered the national umbrella for the Palestinian. It's the global parliament for the Palestinian, and all the plan, the strategy, and decision who is related of Palestine and Palestinian should be decided through this council, not through even different levels of committees or political parties. So with the Oslo Agreement, who's everyone know that it's supposed to be temporary transition agreement for 4 years. It was supposed to be, whatever, if some who agree or disagree about Oslo, but it's very important to remember this agreement is have been exist just for short term, just for 4 years, and not more, and now you can see we are more than 25 years live under the trap of Oslo. So 96 we had the first election, and it was 88 members of the PLC, the Palestinian Legislative Council, to elect, and the election system depends and based on what we called it the departments. That's mean departments mean each district elects their representative, no lists. So people are compete on the election, neither what is their background, if they are independent or related to political parties. In each district who took the majority by the votes, he will be a member of the PLC.
So like the American system of choosing people for Congress and Senate and stuff.
Yes, who take the majority in each area. Now this is also the weird now. We are in two election, and we are on the third, and each election system is different of the other. Now this was the first. The second election who start to be on the 2006 was different election system. It was mixed system, departments and lists. So you can say, 50% is departments, 50% lists, so people have a chance to elect list and representative in their area, and raised up the number of the members from 88 to be 132. So now we are talking about the third election with the third election system. You see, that it's completely lists, no departments. That's mean it's a pure political election, pure political party control, if I want to describe it in this word.
This is the same system that we have in Norway.
Yeah, and we believe, as we are part of the civil society, it's not completely fair system, because it's the independents and activists difficult to have a chance, to be elected and pass to election. And as an example, in Nablus area district, I could be known well in my area as an activist or whatever, So I could have, if I be candidate, I could have good chance to be being elected and represent my area, But with the national list, it will be so difficult, because who's know me even in Hebron or in Gaza or whatever, So whatever. This is what the political parties they agree, and this is what we have, And between the both election, of course, we pass quickly. I don't know. It depends on your questions. We pay your attention that 1 year after of the 2006 election, we have, the division. The division. It was not just political. It was political and geographical. We talk about the division between West Bank and Gaza, division between the two main political parties, and this division, of course, for 15 years, make big reflection on the for me, the important point is make big reflection on the Palestinian national struggle. When you are being under, weak, it's weaken the front of resistance and struggle. So this is, I believe, one of the main reflection of this division. The second, of course, on the economical and on the social level, this is make the people, of course, on the public opinion, start to be not so acceptable until now. Almost 15 years. First of all, out and away of the democratic life. 15 years of divisions, who's increased the suffering for the Palestinian people, our weakened position in our struggle on the national and even on the regional and on the international level, and all of this. So no wonder when the announcement of the election, the days of the election, so no wonder we saw 36 lists have been registered, to participate on the election. 8 just from the 36 lists, 8 are related to political parties or represent political parties. The rest are independents, and this is give a sign. If I want to mention from three main points, 3 main points. Why is this number? It's I said lead for the desire of the people to back again to democracy and democratic life. Second, this big number of lists lead that there is a gap between the political parties and the people. This is another fact. And the third, it's the sign of the right of the people to choose their leaders. It's our right to choose our leader and our representative, and our decision makers. It's not just matter of law and order and legislative. So this is the 3 main, let me say, messages of the number of these 3 lists that what we have now. Now, if you talk on the basic of all the lists, also as a fact in all the programs, because legally and officially the election campaign should be start by the 30th of April. So no one of list officially present their program or not allowed to present, but of course we have general idea about. If we talk from the political side, in general, all the political points is common. There is no big differences, between all the list. If you talk about the political point and position, and the occupation have our own independent state, the Palestinian struggle, all of this main basic points have no disagreement about. But we have more independentists want to focus about some other issues related of the law and order and anti-corruption and give more a chance for the young leadership, and for the women, to be on the top of the leadership, or as I always describe it, on the top of decision making. So this is one of different topics of programs of all the lists. But what is the public opinion, or what is the public main aware and interest? As last statistics and polls that we have, of course, the economical issues is on the top, of the awareness of the people. The second is the security. Security, what I mean, the law and order. People, they want to have more law and more order in our Palestinian territories. The third is the social cases issues was related of unemployment and social security, more fair fund, for the poor families, and all of this. Number four, I'm talking about facts that we have now. Number four in the election is the political. I said, why is number four? Not because it is on the bottom of the list, but because it is not the big issue that we are disagree about as a Palestinian between all different political parties and this. Either if as you are part of the Palestinian solidarity movement, whatever, we have the discussion of one state or two states or whatever solution. This is one of the main daily topic discussion we have. Is not related of what we have today, but this is what I want to say, the general points that what we have recently about the election. So I don't know if you would like to have more information, details about the all points have been mentioned. Please let me know.
Yes. No, I think it's very interesting to hear you. I didn't want to interrupt you because it's interesting just to follow your train of thought, and you mentioned a lot of things that I was going to ask about, and I think I want to expand a bit on a couple of these things. Like for the first, I think it's interesting that what you said, that there's 36 lists, and out of these 36 lists, there's only 8 that represent political parties. So that means, as you said, it shows that there's at least a sort of an expectation of people wanting something else than the list. And to correct me if I'm wrong, but to put a list together and to make sure that you to get votes, you have to pay $20,000, right?
Exactly, and also the minimum age is 28 years old.
Yes.
And as a civil society, of course, we ask to minimize the age for the candidates, to reach such as 21 years old, and also to less also the fees of the registration of list, who's reach $20,000, and we ask also to rise up the women and female percentage inside each list, because they are talk about 30% should be, and I have different opinion. Me personally, I'm not against, but I don't agree the quota. We have 25 years experience of the quota. I think you understand what I mean, quota.
Yes.
When I talk about quotas, we have 25 years experience of quota, and me personally, I believe there was no real change on women rights or women conditions according to quota, and I believe women and women rights is not related with the limit percentage. I believe it should be open, and I believe women representative in the political parties, in institution, whatever, should be completely open, and not limited, and should be represent. I mean, the let me say the reality of our society. You understand what I mean? The reality of our society. I mean, if we don't want to say we, in our, institution or our councils, whatever, 30% are the representative are women and females, and on the practical, they have no real power, and they are not really a decision maker. If I want to say it in other words, as a decoration, as a decoration, and just for propaganda and marketing ourselves, for the donator country, that look, we are respect women's rights, and you should, give us more and more and support us more and more and more. So me personally, I'm not against, but I don't agree from beginning. I don't agree the quota. That will it really will it change, the women rights conditions in our system. This is what my comment.
I see. I think I have lots of questions for you, but I see that also there's questions coming in on the Facebook page, and I think I want to let the people watching ask their questions, because I think that's interesting.
Yes, good for
we're talking about the PLC. So there's and we're talking about the system, and Turi, she's asking. This is in Norwegian, but I'll translate it for you. So they say, like, how old do you have to be to vote, and how will the election happen? So, like, how do people actually go and vote? And do you think Israel will make problems? So, I guess an important question here is, like, East Jerusalem, the voting in East Jerusalem.
Yes.
And then you mentioned something about the relationship between men and women on the lists. And also she's asking about the main issues for the elections, and I think you mentioned that as well. So, but if we go into, like, the details of the actual elections, how old do you have to be to vote? How will the election actually happen, and how do you think it's going to work in East Jerusalem?
First of all, any Palestinian 18 years old and should be registered, of course. Anyone not registered will have no right to vote. So
you have to register beforehand. It's like the American system as well, yeah?
Yeah, so sure. We open a time for registration, and each one register according, the department and the area that they live, and after a couple of weeks, close the registration and announce, the list and the names of the people who have the right. And on the day the election, everyone can go, to his station. We call it the election station, and vote, by himself. So this, I mean,
and I read that there's 96% of the Palestinian people with voting rights that have registered.
It's up of 60. Yes, it's up of 90%. Yes, the last statistic it's 93. Yes, it's
93. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But then I heard someone else say, because this sounds like an impressive number, but then I heard someone say that, but it's not that impressive. It's not as impressive as it sounds, because people have been registering for voting when the election was postponed and delayed and cancelled before. So do you know how many new people have registered now? Is there like Do you have a statistic? It's like, is it lots of young people who have registered, or is it lots of first-time voters, or is it women, or is it?
You know, I will tell you, more than 15 years away of election, and election is part of the democracy. Of course, this young generation have strong will and desire to participate in democratic life. This is, I said, why is we have this number of lists, and this is why the this high percentage of registration. Of course, mostly, we are talking about the people who are between the 18 and the 35 years old are a very good percentage and good number, for sure, of course.
And they actually constitute 50% of the voting population.
Sorry?
The people from 18 to 33, they actually constitute, they've never voted, but they actually constitute 50% of the population eligible to vote, yeah?
Yeah, it's true. Yes, it's true, you know. And if you go up more to, it's kind the age up more a little bit, it will reach 70%. As exactly, we are, as we are,
young population.
Yes, young nation, young population.
Now, and the people of age, they look so young. So
I hope so. So the past two elections, mainly the first one, who was more clearly the election in Jerusalem, it was done according special protocol. Protocol, of course, have been signed, after Oslo, between the PLO and Israel, and this protocol that the Palestinians been able to vote at post offices, at the post office in East Jerusalem. This is what is the protocol. This happened also in the second time. The third time now, what we talk about, Israel is refused until now to give an answer. Officially, they didn't refuse, But what I want to say, there is agreement and there is a protocol, have been signed, between PLO, Israel, with, what we call it international guarantee, that to guarantee that the Palestinians be able to participate in election in east part of Jerusalem. This is the fact. So Israel is completely denied until now to give an answer about. And even for the international observer, EU is apply, for sent observers. Israel deny, to give answer until now. Even there is no answer, about this. So the sign now lead that connect of this issue and point. The PLO leadership, or first yesterday late night, an urgent meeting by the president, and in the next 48 hours, the president with the representative of all PLO factions will have an urgent meeting to make a final decision that if we will held on the election or we will delay it. The mood is going to delay the election if Israel will not allow to commit with the protocol and to hold the election in the way that we are agree, as we are believe. And I want to say the Palestinian, just to understand, this is the Palestinian official position. East Jerusalem for us is our capital, and it's not acceptable, to hold the election without our own capital. This is the official position. Now, of course, some other lists, they believe it's kind of an excuse for delay election, and asking for the election in Jerusalem be as a part of our Palestinian struggle. what is me in Israel try to build a fact every day, a new fact in Palestinian territories, include that Jerusalem, East Jerusalem, and people, and some, of course, representative of different factions and list, ask our leadership also to be on the level of a challenge, and also build also a new fact in East Jerusalem. One of it, what's happened in the past few days, one of it, and also held on the election in any way and in different cases, even if the election will be, I want to say, even if we will carry the boxes from house to house, from family to family, and to build this fact that, first of all, East Jerusalem is our capital, and our right also to organize our election, our right to have our own democratic life also, our right to select and choose our representative and leadership. And have different meaning and signs, But we will see in the next 48 hours will be so clear what is the final decision.
Yes.
And
it's interesting that Israel, which calls itself the only democracy in the Middle East, are hindering a democratic process in Palestine.
According their standards.
Exactly, it's an oxymoron. So ridiculous. No, interesting.
But,
so we will pay close
sorry,
attention for the next 48 hours this is, of course, concerning the PLC election, the Palestinian Legislative Council.
Yes. And according to the Oslo agreement to hold, the election, what I want to say, the PLC and the presidential election, it's supposed to be at the same time and the same day. And this is what's happened in the first election. This is the system, But the second one have been separated, and now we can see if the third one have been separated.
Do you think that has will have an effect on turnout, for example? On turnout, how many people will actually show up to vote? Do you think the fact that they separate them will because then people have to vote again and again and again,
Of course, the argument. I don't want to say just discussion and the argument. I mean, internal Palestinian argument about election. It will prevent, of course, many people to participate in the election. Now, 75% of Palestinians, the registered Palestinians, admit that they will participate in the election. But if the argument keep continuing this way, I think it will prevent good number of people on this to participate in this election. So the delay the election, of course. I mean, held the election without Jerusalem, of course, it's risky. It's completely risky. This is a fact. And delay the election also is risky on, the Palestinian democracy and on the Palestinian will of change, because there is a fact. The Palestinian people, they want to have a change. And by the way, let me be clear with you about this vote. Palestinian people want to have the change, not on the level of political parties. In general, political parties from different factions, are well respected among the Palestinian people. The will of a change that we have on the leadership, we believe this grassroots political parties, mainly on the top of it, Fatah, there is a fact, is still the largest and the strongest political faction in Palestine. This is a fact. Okay? So the argument is not about Fatah itself or the other political parties and factions. The argument is about, the leadership. That's people, want to have a new generation, to lead this grassroots political faction and parties, and to continue even the tradition and the culture of struggle and resistance until we achieve our main goals. So this is the will of a change. The will of a change, not on the political parties itself, as it is, to have a new leadership on different levels, on different factions. So this is what.
But
this is the narrative that we have.
But I have a question regarding this point, because in local elections in Norway, we usually see a lot of one-point parties that show up, right? And they are people usually not very experienced politically. So
Yes.
and usually, or at least some of the times, they might have some problems when they actually get elected, because they don't have any political experience, and they don't have a political apparatus around them with the experience.
Yes.
So if you look at these new lists and containing young people, have they gotten people with political experience around them, and do they have like an apparatus that can support them if they are elected in, and if they become like a strong force in the political government?
It's a very good question, First of all, for me, I describe most independent list is kind of a reaction, a reacted list, and kind of a protest list, about the reality that we are living, the Palestinian reality as we are living, from different sides, from political, social, economical, whatever you. So of course, it's a fact. Not many people politically have good experience about, and unfortunately, in the last statistic we released just yesterday mentioned 25 lists have no chance to pass. Also, so beside the positive things we said, the will and the desire of change, whatever, it's also, and this related of, like we said, related of the experience of, and also repeating. You have lists repeat themselves by themselves, of the issues and the cases, and difficult to convince, the public and the voter to vote for them. Even if, from personal side, they are very good people, but to be a politician and to be decision maker, what I mean, is completely different. So, but I want to tell you something. Whatever the chances, all of this that we have, we are talking about. It's like you are throwing a stone on the lake. You know what I mean. It's good, to see. A discussion. As I'm always saying, as we are a live nation, It's good to see people are argue and discuss and refuse, and to be with and to be against, and of course, in respectable way, in democratic way. At the end, for the long term, all what's happened is good and positive.
Yes, I agree.
It's good and positive, and it's healthy, So it's not matter of to win and lose. If you, understand what I mean.
I understand, yeah. So obviously it's good with political discussion and getting new voices into the political scene.
Exactly, and there is a fact.
Challenging the power.
Yes, and there is a fact. Several of activists and leaders of lists, after the election, they will continue. They will continue their activities, and they could be later part of new political parties or whatever. This is the fact of life that we have here in Palestine.
Yes. Okay, I have another question here from Sigrid Brucke. She's asking about Gaza. So will they manage to organize a democratic election in Gaza, maybe especially due to corona restriction? and also Hamas, who is considered less democratic. So, what are your reactions to that?
First of all, the election, it's our right, and it's not acceptable to continue live out of legislative and democratic life. And the election and the change is not an over challenge. It's a challenge. In Gaza, it's a challenge. In Nablus, it's a challenge. In Jerusalem, it's a challenge. For the people who have been in Palestine before, well. When we talk about West Bank is not free. Jerusalem is occupied as Nablus is occupied as Gaza is occupied, and Gaza is occupied. The propaganda that Israel is withdraw from Gaza is not true. They withdraw from crowded. I'm always say from the crowded area, they drop the siege, and these days they are control everything. So everything is a challenge here in Gaza and anywhere and everywhere. The pandemic is one of the challenges also.
Democracy under occupation is definitely not easy. That's very understandable. But but I want to talk about another thing, because we've been talking very much about the PLC now, when you started talking, you were describing a story to show the importance of the PLO and the PNC. And the PN. This is the first time you're actually electing the PNC, right?
No. Now we'll talk more. Yes, let's talk more about the PNC. PNC, according to the PNC constitution, that every Palestinian reach 18 years old, wherever, anywhere live, have the right to participate and elect the representative, leadership representative on PNC. This never happened since 1964 until now. This never happened. This never happened, by the way. I'm talking about facts, not because we don't want, because technically it was impossible to be happened. It's impossible the refugees to organize their own election in the Arab countries, and Palestine is under the occupation. Part of it, partly we are under autonomy, after the 94, but technically now. So the little change we had, on 1996 until now, of course, the system now, all the PLC elected members are automatically members of PNC. So this is the first clear democratic part of the PNC. The rest part is related of compromising and according quota between different political parties. Sorry, let me give you an idea who's represent PNC exactly, and how it is. So mainly it's 12 Palestinian political factions are the main represented in the PNC, and each one have its own quota and percentage, of course, according to the size of each political party. Second, the representative is the representative of the Palestinian unions. The Palestinian unions, of course, the labor, the worker union, student union, women union, the profession union like lawyers, doctors, whatever. All the elected leaders of this union are automatically being members of the PNC also, who's live in and outside Palestine. So in this way there was how is the PNC being work and run for. Number of the PNC members number until the last meeting happened in 2018 was 765 members. 765 members, and of course even we call it big number. So the agreement now is to drop the number to 350. 150 represent Palestine inside, 150, 200 outside.
Okay.
So when you have the PLC election, you are already have 132 of the 150 already elected, be another 18, the another 18 members being, let me say, nominated or selected by the political faction, together as kind of a deal, whatever, for the rest 18 members.
Okay.
The 200 who are outside and abroad, they will keep continue. I mean, if the Arab countries will permit to have election, there, will be glad and be happy. And the rest countries, foreign countries, the Palestinians are split. So I don't know if you would like to give you related of this. You have an idea about the number of Palestinian population in and outside. I give you briefly, shortly, as we are under information meeting. As I said, I'm not give you seminar and lecture. Okay. So by the end of 2020, the number of Palestinians reached 13.7 million. So almost 14 million. Half live inside, half live outside. So you can, so for that, even part of the Palestinian democracy. When we talk about real democracy, when you are talking about decision making, when you are talking about putting Palestinian strategies and goals, you cannot deny 7 million people who are live abroad. 6.2 of them live in Arab countries, and around 800,000 live in foreign countries, in Europe and America and Latin America. So these people, in fact, because of them, the revolution has happened. I want to tell you something. As you said, we never met. When I have this group's delegation, why I start my tour from the refugee camp? Sorry, and why I start even in Nablus? Because this is the roots of the conflict and the problem. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict is not 1967 conflict.
No.
The roots of the conflict is, the 1948. Without have fair and just solution of the 1948, who is based on the refugees and their right of return. Well, what's happening is completely, for me, it's illusion, and it's a completely silly, to talk about any solution and deny the millions of refugees who live abroad. So this is the fact that we have.
But it's interesting to hear these numbers, because obviously it's going to be a challenge to organize an election for these 7.2 million people outside Palestine. So how are you completely at the will of the government, and who organizes the election? Is it organized from a central election committee in Palestine, and then they have the discussion with the different governments? And also, do you think the new normalization agreements that's been made with some of these countries, will this affect the PLO elections?
First of all, who is represent Palestinian in and outside officially is PLO. Yeah. And PLO who are, responsible on to follow up the Palestinian cases outside and abroad. And this is in fact, one of main discussion we had in the past 15, 20 years. I mean, after the Oslo agreement, whatever, as we have a PA, have been exist and established. And PAs have been established according agreement between PLO and the Israeli side. And what's happened later, and unfortunately, is not from our side also, it's not from Israel's side. And this is a fact, from EU, European countries, and the other big countries, they start to deal with PA as representative of Palestinian and deny PLO. And by the way, this related of issues. This is why the big argument and discussion that we have, the importance of the PNC, the Palestinian National Council, is more important. I don't want to say the election inside occupied territories is not important, but it's the most important, because the argument, we had for the past couple of years, not just now, when they have several time election proposals, that from where we should start and by what we should start,
Yeah.
Me personally, I belong to the minority, unfortunately, and the civil society, who argue that we should start by the PNC, the Palestinian National Council, as it is we call it our house. In our Palestinian description, we call it the Palestinian house, the PNC. And we should, fix and reform our house. Because it starts to be weak, and if continue this way, it will collapse. You know what I mean? So we should reform and fix our house, to continue. So for us, we believe it was supposed, the argument is to start by the PNC, and after, the PLC and the presidential election, as it is part of the Palestinian nation and part of the case. It is not all the case. And by the way, if the election have been delayed, if they delay the election, this proves that we were right. I will tell you something. What is mean? I mean describe it in other words. That if we will have no election for the next couple of weeks or months, that means we will never have national unity and reconciliation until we have election. I don't know from how they are thinking and which logic they are talking about. The Palestinian national unity is more important as election, I want to say. So for that, repairing and reforming our house, I believe is the main important and more the basic point, for this.
Yeah. So the PLO should come first, but what's the argument that it is not the PLO first? Why do they What's the opposite argument?
It's all the political parties. Even I was surprised. All the political parties, they agree, and it's a point of view of them. All the political parties, okay, that the PLC election is the key and the first step for reconciliation and our national unity.
Okay.
But the question is, what is the guarantee? What is the guarantee? What is the guarantee if the results of the election will be not on the mood of the political parties, especially the two main big political parties? And by the way, I want to pay your attention to remember this point. I would say, whatever the election happened now or later, in the next election will happen, there is no majority for any political parties. It's finished. There is no one political party now to say I am the only, or I am the biggest, and I am the most powerful. In the next election will be no majority for any political party. None in West Bank, none in Gaza, none from right, none from the left, none. Next election, if we like or don't like, if we accept or don't accept, it will draw a new political map in the Palestinian political system. That some other powers will exist, the civil society power, whatever, the human rights power, whatever you can describe it. But the most important point, there is no majority anymore. And by the way, why I said that? Because the Europe, international community, and Israel, in the past couple of weeks or months, they send wording message that if Hamas will win, that no support, no donation, blah blah, and all of this story. This is, of course, this is an excuse. From now we tell them, non-Hamas will take the majority, and the fact non-Fatah will take the majority, and no one will run alone the political system inside, I said, Palestine anymore.
No.
So for that, we believe the national unity and reforming PLO, rebuilding PLO on democratic standard. It's the most top, priority for us, and will make us more stronger and more powerful to face all the development that we have. In special, and sorry for the point. Now I'm talking a lot, I know, but it's very important point. In special, there is a fact. Palestinian, we are facing one of the hardest periods in our history since the 48, since the Nakba. This is the hardest that we face. And what I want to describe it, unfortunately, it's like we are fighting alone. If we talk on regional level, like you said, most of the Arab countries are now, you see, with the normalization agreement, and some few Arab countries or regimes who are supporting Palestine, they are busy by their problems. Civil war in Syria, in Libya, and in Yemen, and economical crisis in Tunisia, Moroccan countries, and in Lebanon, and everywhere, So the people, this big countries we were partly based on backing us, they are useless in this period. And the international community keeps silent. Keep silent. And we are sick and tired of the policy of just condemns the policies. House demolition, ethnic cleansing, racism everywhere, new settlements, and the international community, the reaction, they are just express themselves. They are worried, and radical step they can take is just to condemn the policy that they have. This is completely not acceptable. So the end, what I want to end. So with all the development we have around us, the only Palestinian we have is just the Palestinian. And the Palestinian national unity is the most important than election or whatever they describe it as. The democracy is more democracy is important, but the national unity is also important, and is on the top of our concern as, let me say, public opinion.
Yes. Don't worry about talking too much, because people come to listen to you, not to me.
Sorry, I don't want them to feel. I don't want them to feel.
That's nice of you. I know that you have been fasting all day, so I won't keep you much longer.
So I need to smoke.
Yeah, that's fine. I just want to finish.
Yes, this is my message for. I want to excuse me with long day of fasting. Need to smoke, and I smoke because I am alone. No one with me. I have no choice.
But that's the joy of digital meetings. You can smoke in any meeting.
In fact, and also wearing my shorts. You can see.
Okay, so Maj, I just want to finish on one question, and
yes.
I think obviously we could talk all night about this because it's very interesting, and there's many ethical and principally questions. But I just want to ask you, because last time there was an election, this is when the national unity was broken because of the results of the election. So if one of the parties, and I'm talking about the main parties, Hamas and Fatah, if they get like a landslide election, or if they get like a majority that gives them some sort of power, do you think that both parties will accept the results of the election? Obviously, you're not an oracle, so you can't say. But what's your gut feeling?
I will tell you the public opinion, not mine. Okay.
No, okay, yeah,
You
perfect.
can. So 60% they mentioned that 60% they mentioned that if Fatah win, 60% mentioned that Hamas will not accept the result, and 70% mentioned, almost 70, if Hamas win, Fatah will not accept the results. This is the public opinion, in the last
Yeah,
polls and statistics.
yeah.
Uh, uh, I will tell you
That's
something.
bleak. That's a bleak outlook for the democratic process.
Exactly.
Yeah.
As I mentioned, we believe that the reforming PLO and national unity, it's for us. I believe it should be the first step, not the last step, and the election should be the result of reconciliation between the political parties. I want to pay your attention. There is a basic point, of course, not many people mention about, and by all this joint meeting, the double meeting and joint meeting between Fatah, Hamas, and other factions in the past 15 years. But there is a basic meeting. It's considered the Cairo Agreement of 2005. Now we have several Cairo meetings. The Cairo meeting 2005, after Arafat death, or assassination, what you can describe. It was a real and deep meeting between all the Palestinian political parties and factions, and they agree that Hamas and Jihad Islami to enter to PLO. Remember when I said between 60, 65, 69, the story of Fatah. Now talk about the importance that of Hamas and Jihad Islami to join and be members of PLO, and I believe it's very important and big step, for the Palestinian national strategy, not just the struggle, for the Palestinian strategy. And one of the main reason of the national unity government failed, not because of the election itself. It's because they didn't, committed with the agreement that they reached on 2005, that Hamas, Jihad Islami, to be a full member of PLO, full member, like I said, full partner to be, So look, this is the first point. Second point, the discussion was not just related of PLO and partnership. It was related also about the Palestinian national struggle, the tools of struggle, the land where should be concentrate our resistance and struggle, and the right and what we called it, the decision of war and peace. If you understand this point, to be not related of one political party, not one political party decide when we make war or not make war. You know what I mean? All of this. So what I want to say, one of the main guarantees that for any next election to not fail or any national unity, we should back to the roots of the Cairo 2005 agreement. If there will be and respect and implementation of this agreement, whatever was the result of election, things we can be fine and we can pass it.
I see. Interesting. I think we spent an hour and 15 minutes now. So I think even though I would like to talk to you all night, much, but I think we will end there.
My pleasure.
Yes. And I encourage people to pay attention for the next 48 hours to see the message coming out, whether the election will be postponed or not, and who knows? Maybe we'll have to ask you to show up again and give us a situation report on after the elections to see. That would be interesting.
It will be my pleasure. But I want to add a point related to election, especially through my contact with some of your comrades about election and election. When I ask if will be election, some to come and to join. What I want is observe. For me, it's not matter of technical observing, election. What I want to say. I'm asking, when I ask people to come and observe the election, it's as a part of the solidarity with Palestine. Practical step. It's a practical step in solidarity of Palestine and in solidarity of democracy. Okay, solidarity of democracy for Palestine and the Palestinians. This is the main meaning of why we ask come and join, and not just matter. I said monitor and observe. It's a practical solidarity. This is what I want to clear about this point.
Definitely, and inshallah we will be able to come down to Palestine. It's all about the COVID situation, of course. So, but we would be delighted to come down and to observe, obviously. So we are looking into it and discussing it in the Palestine community.
We are talking about any time, and not just this election. Yeah. Any kind of election we held in Palestine, your participation is a practical solidarity with the Palestinian democracy and support for the democracy, beside of our national rights. So thank you for everyone to have this opportunity, this window, to talk with you and to hear my voice. And I hope next time meet in person in Palestine.
So do I, inshallah. And thank you very, very much, Maj, for taking the time. And it's so important for us to get the Palestinian voice abroad and to the people in Norway. So thank you very much. It was very, very interesting talking to you. So shukran.
My great pleasure.
So now I'll just say some final words in Norwegian, and then we'll be finished. So
it's okay, no problem. I will be finished my cigarette.
Yes. Tusen takk alle sammen som fulgte månedens møte med Morten. Jeg vil avslutte med å si at vi i Palestina-komiteen vi kjemper hver dag for å spre ordet om den palestinske situasjonen og den israelske okkupasjonen, og vi snakker med politikere, og spesielt i år hvor det valgkamp, så det ekstremt viktig at vi mange og at vi sterke. Så derfor vil jeg absolutt oppfordre alle dere som ikke medlem av Palestina-komiteen allerede, om å melde dere inn. Første året koster bare 100 kroner. Og for alle dere som medlem, så vil jeg oppfordre dere til å spørre minst en venn om de kunne tenke seg å melde seg inn i Palestina-komiteen. Og med det så sier jeg tusen takk for i kveld, og så ses vi igjen neste gang på månedens møte med Morten. Ha det bra!
Good night.